found out through fellow friends and other followers that I follow.
Now, did you understand what she was here for?
It was an email that was sent out to certain students. I didn't get it personally, but it was on Snapchat, and it said that the First Lady of the United States will be. It said that it should be a great learning experience for all the children and all the teachers.
About just making sure that people are friends and aren't bullied and that kind of a sense of family at the school.
I was here for only half of the I was here for half of the speech, but
Like we're not live, but we are live.
All right, we are live inside the newsroom.
Oh
my goodness.
Oops,
we were just Snapchatting a little bit behind the scenes.
First Lady's event.
Because I'm here with the social media editor, Raisa, so we had to kind of include that in.
Of course.
We got to talk about what's popping socially, but right now we're getting a little notes on what's happening. And promo is sort of one of the events that's going on today live. So the president is meeting with the Prime Minister of Singapore later this afternoon. So right now he's greeting him live at the White House. Let's go over there quickly to get this in. Yeah, let's get this coverage, then we'll come back.
I think it's lunchtime. For me, anyway. You still going?
Nope.
I'm still on. I got that. Put in double clutch on that.
All right, sorry guys, we thought we would have that for a little longer, but I think our feeds are kind of in and out today of the president greeting the prime minister. Yeah, they just notified us that we're going to get some tape playback inside the Oval Office of the president sitting down with him. But So when we get that in, we'll go over there. But let's start talking about some social media stuff. What's
Wait,
going
let
on
me
today?
post this Snapchat that we just did.
Because we opened the show doing a Snapchat,
That was fun.
so you could kind of see behind the scenes of what we do.
Okay, done.
All right. Hey, Austin, what's up? Glad you're on with us as usual. Hopefully you saw also Mike's weather hit earlier, just like less than 30 minutes ago. He came up to do sort of a solo weather informational bit about what's coming on, because I think we got the winter snow coming up.
It's coming.
I don't know what.
Do you think it'll be brutal?
I think
this
Mike.
summer was kind of like weird.
Yeah, and Mike definitely knows the rundown on that, so we'll have to ask him for more.
Okay.
But I don't know where he is. I think he's done for the day.
Okay.
So, guys, this is a live look inside the digital newsroom, and we're going to talk to Raisa about, dude, what's going on? Hey, Terrence.
Oh, hey, Terrence.
What up?
Perfect timing.
You're a sports guy.
Let's touch on sports then.
All right, we got you.
Okay, let's do it.
So last night, obviously, guys, Patriots-Falcons in Sunday Night Football, the fog overcame the stadium. It was crazy up in Foxborough.
Here, let me give you my my mic here. We'll share.
If any of you, what's up? Oh, hey, Austin, you're saying Mike did a great job. Yeah, he's always great. We're happy to have Mike as our weather guy. Like I said, I think he ran off. He's so fun. We'll have him on more, and he'll be doing some solo stuff too. But T, let's talk more football. So lots of stuff yesterday. Cowboys.
So yesterday was what, week 6, I think?
Yeah.
Week 6, yes. My team definitely won. We beat the San Francisco 49ers. Tonight, the Redskins and Eagles.
That's the big thing.
That's gonna be a big game.
Huge NFC East showdown. I'm going for the Skins on this one.
A lot of people were. A lot of people predicted that today. Although my boss Kyle was like, "No, I think the Eagles have it."
The Eagles.
But he's from Philly
I
too,
know,
so
but he
a
had some
little
ties
bias
to
there,
Philly.
Maybe.
Some ties to
The
Philly.
Eagles are good though. They only lost one game this season.
Oh, okay. Thus far.
But
Wait, what's the run on the Skins? What's
They're
2 and
they're not
3 and 2.
3 and 2?
Oh
Okay.
yeah, so
Okay.
they're solid, but
Okay.
Yeah. But it's definitely be a great game.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think Kirk Cousins, Carson Wentz, they're gonna ball out, both of them. It's gonna be a high scoring game.
It'll be
I have a
good.
feeling, yeah.
Are you watching it anywhere cool?
you know, I don't. I might be watching it. I'll have it on where I am, but
Okay.
no big plans for the Skins. But I'm excited. We had Tailgate Ted on the morning show today, promoting his
Some yummy
famous
food.
Philly cheesesteak. Yeah, because they're playing Philadelphia,
Yeah.
so that was super yummy. So that was good.
A breakfast for champions, because I think you got to enjoy
It was
one,
literally
right?
7:50 a.m. I grabbed one. We brought. I think we brought some down to the kitchen. They're somewhere, and it's always fun. But anyway, so that's tonight, Monday Night Football.
Okay. And another thing happening in sports. Who's bringing sexy back to the Super Bowl halftime show?
Dude, JT is back. So Justin
Yes.
Timberlake back at his 3rd appearance. This will be his one solo headlining appearance. And prior to this, in 2001, he was featured with NSYNC, and then 2004 with Janet Jackson. Now he's solo. So it'll be exciting.
He's confirmed for the
He's
Super Bowl.
confirmed.
Wow.
Did you see the commercials yesterday? Yeah. So
didn't see the commercials.
there were a couple things, and he tweeted out or whatever with that little promo with Jimmy Fallon. But then during the Patriots game, there was an interview that they actually showed of him kind of chatting about what he feels like doing it solo and how he announced it, that he's officially doing it. So
As a big JT fan, I'm actually looking forward to
he's
it
our
because the
generation.
halftime shows are amazing, so I can only imagine what he's going to bring to the table.
I'm surprised that they brought him back after the whole Janet Jackson.
Well, and it was so long ago, and that was obviously a scandal. In this interview last night, he was saying, he made a little joke about it, but he was like, "Oh, that for sure won't happen again." Basically saying that was a bad thing that obviously we all know. So he never pushed it under the rug. It was never hidden.
Yeah.
But it's been so many years. It's been literally 13 years. It's 04. It's 17.
Time
Oh,
flies,
yeah.
guys.
Doesn't
Oh
feel
my
that long.
gosh.
And that was another Patriot Super Bowl. I remember that because I remember watching with my teenager friends. I was a teenager
Memories.
way back then, but a lot of people were speculating who's gonna kind of pop up out of the stage, who's gonna be this
Who's gonna have
secondary.
surprise guests?
Who is it? Yeah,
What do you think?
He might bring out all of NSYNC with him.
that would be
hot.
I would
sick. I don't
die.
know though. It's always
Calling
a
it
question.
But I know that Jay-Z had denied.
Oh, really?
Oh, he said that's
had-
right.
They had offered.
What
he
was?
was offered.
I saw this.
Okay.
So JT probably wasn't the first offered at all.
Okay. It's
I
okay,
don't
you're
think.
number 1 for me, JT.
That's right. There was a JT thing because it was what was going on.
It was
There was a
the whole
protest thing.
protesting, the whole Kaepernick.
Yeah.
During the.
I
anthem.
remember that.
Yeah.
So I
So-
guess maybe Jay-Z was the number one.
Jay-Z, yeah, he just didn't want to be in that
Part
light.
of that.
Okay.
Like he was just like, nah.
That's a
He
part of
usually
that.
stays away from drama, I feel, too. for the
Yeah,
most
he
part,
stays
you
very
know?
quiet, like
Yeah.
in the cut for these
For
kind
sure.
of things.
For sure.
But then he'll come out with the album and just amaze the world.
Mhm.
Exactly.
That's just how Jay-Z works.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good way to operate, I feel.
So we got
Yeah.
Skins tonight.
So
We got Skins Cowboys next Sunday.
Oh yeah.
Which is their big rival, and it's a big one here. Hard to get tickets to. We've been looking.
Nope.
Both of you guys are gonna go?
It's here.
Oh,
well,
my
we
God.
wanted to months ago. We were like, that's the one game. If we want to go to a great Redskins game, I want to experience that. I've never been to one personally. Those two teams. Have you?
I've been to a Cowboys and the Philadelphia Eagles game in Philadelphia, and that was rough.
Okay.
That was
I've been to their stadium, but
I know for a fact FedEx Field, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's like it's an alright field.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not the best. It's not like Jerry.
It didn't wow.
It doesn't because here's the thing. I think by some statistic, volume or something, or actual sheer size, it's the largest in the NFL. It's also one of the older ones, right? It's concrete.
sure.
It's hard to walk up and around. And it's so it is what it is.
Here, I'll hold it for you. I'm sure your hand's getting tired.
Thanks, man.
Yeah. Where I want to pop in really quick because we're getting a little footage of the Prime Minister in Singapore with President Trump, and that's, like I said, that joint press conference is later today. So I just want to play out briefly what the pool, which is our media pool, got. So Fox is kind of sending this down to us really quick. It's like a couple minutes, and then we'll come back in and chat a little more social news. All right, so let's go in there. It's going to be a little rough at the beginning, but we'll get to see what was going on in the Oval Office with the President and the Prime Minister. And then we'll talk some of the hot topics in social.
Let's do it.
And maybe some more sports going on too. So you're getting into work today, or?
You know, the usual.
The
Monday,
usual.
we're pretty sure there were some IT issues over the weekend.
Oh my gosh.
You know,
Always.
IT man.
Lots of upgrades happening.
Oh gosh, that's always fun.
Upgrades. All right, let's jump into the Oval Office, guys. This is tape playback of the President with the Prime Minister of Singapore, and then we'll come back in.
I look forward to seeing you there too.
Well, you're going to be at the
Yes,
which one?
both Vietnam and in the Philippines.
That's fantastic. I'll be at both.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. I'll be at both.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
Right.
Be back said.
Niet in een maand. Ik wou het
Most of you're going to be at the
Yes,
which one?
All right, guys, we're going to come back into the newsroom because we had an issue with that video. I think we're getting an announcement right now that there was an issue with the playback.
Yeah.
So,
unfortunately,
Bryce and I are back to kind of chat.
Less than 2 minutes.
All right, it should be coming back in a couple minutes, but let's go to another topic that we were kind of chatting about. So we talked about JT, Super Bowl halftime. That's exciting. What else is popping in social? This Netflix thing.
Oh my gosh. Okay, guys. So I feel like there have been so many numbers being thrown around on how much Netflix is going to spend next year on content acquisition. The latest report I saw was $1.6 billion in content acquisition. With that, they're also going to be releasing 80 films, which is pretty big for Netflix because their shows already do so good. Stranger Things dropping pretty soon.
Oh my gosh, the second season of Stranger Things coming out this Friday, right?
So excited. Are you a fan? I'm
yes,
a huge fan.
I'm a huge fan too, and it's dropping as they do in sort of bulk, so 8 episodes, right?
8 episodes for sure.
Oh my gosh, are you gonna binge watch? Or are you gonna go one by one?
Oh no, I'm gonna binge watch.
It's Friday. Actually, I'm trying to think. Do I have anything going on? I gotta book that. I think I'll probably try to watch some of it.
You need to throw that in your calendar, at least for the first 2.
I'm excited. 8 is a lot, and the cast is coming back for it, right? Most of them.
Cast. I'm so excited. I'm a huge fan of 11. You too, I'm sure. Yeah, my faves.
A lot of the characters really, really good.
I think they're all amazing, and I forgot the name of the actor that was also in It. But I love him.
Oh,
he is so funny.
Yes, the guy, but he plays the boy in Stranger Things. Yeah, he's the main character.
Like 11's like Bew, if not.
He's the main character, but not the boy that disappeared or whatever. Not the boy they're looking for.
No, I think they found him. So they found the brother, and like it ended so weird.
It
like
ended
with the slug
weirdly.
coming out of his mouth.
I almost need that trailer how it ended to like recap.
I'm sure they'll do a good
what's
recap.
gonna happen
For sure.
Okay, quickly, we're getting that video in now. Austin, thanks for your comments on that. We actually have it. It's solid. Let's go back to this video and then we'll come back in.
You never even see a downturn in Singapore, so I guess you don't agree with that. But I would say, looking from the outside, you never see a downturn. I just want to congratulate you on having done a fantastic job. The relationship that we've had over the years has been very good, but it's never been closer than now. And we'll be spending a lot of time. One of the things we'll be doing in a short period of time is signing together a very large contract where Singapore is buying billions of dollars worth of airplanes from Boeing that will be made in our country. So that's jobs, and you're also buying the best plane, by the way, so that's very good. So I just want to thank Prime Minister Lee. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much. Very happy to be here with you and to be here at a time when our relations are prospering, and we look forward to taking them forward, deepening them and strengthening them for many years to come, and starting with this administration.
That's very good. I think it will never be stronger.
Thank you.
And I'll be going over to that part of the world in 2 weeks and stopping in numerous countries, including, as you know, Japan, South Korea, China. We're going to be stopping in Vietnam and probably the Philippines also. So it'll be a very busy 10 or 11 days.
A very important trip. We look forward to meeting you and to hearing your message.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Press. Mr. Prime Minister, could you address the DPR Day conversation?
Thank you.
You regret that my thank you Sarah Teams felt this way. Thank you.
Oh, hello.
All right, so we're back in the studio. That was a quick little intro. The president in the Oval Office with the Prime Minister of Singapore. So that's later this afternoon, guys. They'll be live in the Rose Garden behind the White House. Ronica Cleary, our reporter, is there. I know they sent her with our photojournalist Joe with her, so they'll be getting the scoop on their meeting. Like we've seen before, usually it's foreign press, American press, 2 different chunks, and then there's a gathering and there's 2 speeches, and it's a very formalized thing. So that should be interesting. Like President Trump said, he'll be going over to Asia, I guess, later on in a couple weeks. So
okay, awesome.
All right, so let's take it back to social topics. We're talking about Netflix ramping up, more money, throwing more money into content acquisition, throwing more films in their repertoire.
80. From what I've read thus far.
And Stranger Things is one of them.
And Stranger Things is dropping this Friday. So Stranger Things Season 2, 8 episodes. And if you guys are fans like us, I'm totally binge watching. I don't know about y'all. Those are my plans.
I'm excited, and how smart of them. We knew this months ago, but how smart of them to release it right before Halloween, like in that timing.
Perfect timing. Do you think they plan these things? I think they do.
I mean, yeah, it's such a cool, spooky, like 80s themed show. I love it.
Yeah.
Really good.
Yeah.
Speaking of, I guess, stars and singers and music and movies and stuff like that, Lady Gaga this weekend, she made an appearance. This was really cool.
Yeah.
You know more about this, actually. What was this campaign on Saturday?
So for the hurricane relief concert, I saw on Twitter a picture that she tweeted of the 5 former presidents together and was immediately like, oh, she did not. The Queen did it. So she basically said nothing more beautiful than everyone putting their differences aside to help humanity in the face of catastrophe. And she was behind the 5 former presidents as they were sitting. And I mean, I thought it was amazing.
It's really cool. I didn't actually watch the whole thing, but there's a clip right there where we're showing you in the left corner of your screen.
Yeah.
You can see George W. Bush, Jimmy Carter, Clinton, and Obama all were there, and they all made little. This is actually a clip of their kind of sound bites of what they said.
Yeah.
And then what happens? Lady Gaga kind of shows up with them, and
yeah. So she's just basically behind them, and like she just sends out this compelling message. And I mean, you just get to see this awesome generation of powers that have, you know, basically represented us.
It's really cool.
And I think it's just awesome to have everybody collaborating for something that, you know, is doing well.
It's really amazing. I guess Jimmy Carter has to be the oldest of all of them.
I would think so, yeah.
And look at him speaking right there. And remember, he was recently in the news because he was on that flight and he said hi to someone, or what was it? We did a social thing with it.
I think he shook everyone's
hand. He shook
hand.
everyone's hand. So he looks like he's doing well.
Just like all gun-ho.
But he is the oldest, I believe. Yeah. I think.
I want to know what he's taking. What's your diet look like?
I know. What's your secret? So that was really cool.
Yeah.
I don't have the actual piece where she comes out, but she sang.
Yes, she did.
What did she sing?
Ooh,
I heard it.
I don't remember the song. I can't remember.
She sang something notable, and I just heard a clip of it on the radio today, but now I can't remember.
Okay.
But anyway.
And they raised $33 million from.
That's right.
From what I've read, the latest amount, which is awesome. So they had about 80,000 donors contribute to this.
By texting in or going on the website.
Yep. So, yeah, and I mean, the info's right there, guys, if you're still looking to donate.
Oh, cool. Yeah, it's right there. There it is there.
Yep.
Yeah, so that was Saturday night. Made big news with obviously the political connection, the pop culture connection.
Absolutely.
And whatnot. So kind of a cool little clip there.
Yeah.
Play that out a little more. And then what else did we have cooking? We were talking about some viral stories.
So viral stories, guys. I don't know how you guys feel about this, but there is this fitness guru. Her name is Hsien Cooper. So in one of her recent posts, she posted a video of herself working out at Target. And I'm not saying like, oh my gosh, doing cartwheels in the middle of the aisle, but pushing her cart with her baby in it, you know, just doing lunges and other minor things that basically say, hey, you can get it done anywhere. She received a lot of heat from a lot of internet trolls where a lot of them basically said, you need to be doing this at Walmart. Basically saying that only basic people shop there. I think someone said, throw this woman a Xanax. No, at Walmart.
Where did this occur?
So she originally posted a video working out at Target. She's a mother of 2. She is an amazing fitness guru. You can totally find her on Instagram. And Self Magazine actually reposted the video and basically said, this is us. So, you know, she got a lot of love in addition to a lot of hate. Well, her epic clapback was, okay, these trolls are telling me I should be at Walmart. So her following video was her working out at Walmart and was saying, this is how I shut down, you know, negativity.
So she did it specifically because she was getting these comments that were like, you can't do that. It looks like this.
Yeah,
it was just mean.
And implying that basic people shop at Walmart. I love Walmart. I love Target. So I don't know.
Interesting. We've seen a lot of these like pushbacks for people on social media that have a lot of influence, have a lot of followers, and they, you know, them kind of coming back to this bullying, which is really just online bullying and harassment that we see all the time in the news.
All the time.
It becomes these stories lately. It's become sort of the topic of some of these online stories. Wow, it's an interesting one.
But there's always like a feel-good part to it. I mean, I feel like a lot of people do find something positive to shut down the bullying and any negativity that basically comes their way. So
yeah, totally. And speaking of these sort of uplifting videos and anti-bullying, this goes right into this Burger King story.
Oh my gosh, perfect for National Bullying Month, guys. So I don't know, did you get a chance to see the whole video? It's like 2 minutes and like 30 seconds.
But let's talk about what it is.
Institute event.
No, we're good. Okay. We're just getting to alerts on what's coming up next. So there was basically Burger King came out with this ad campaign to really push out the anti-bullying campaign. And what did it really entail?
So basically, they intended to highlight on what subject people would defend. A high school junior being bullied or a bullied Whopper junior, which sounds kind of crazy and
Kind of a
ridiculous, but you
joke.
need to watch the video because they did mean to make it a little bit humorous, but to also show people, you know, who would people rather defend. And the high school junior that they had was an actor, and they basically hired a few young kids.
Oh, they did hire an
bullying
actor.
Yeah. So those were the hired actors, but everybody else in the Burger King sitting and enjoying their meals, all real people, did not know it was a stunt. So you have these kids bullying this one kid, pushing him off his chair, taking his food, and he's just saying, stop it, stop it. No one does anything. Then people, for the bullied Whopper Jr., received a smashed up burger. And I would complain. People went up, they complained to the cashier, they bring in management, and management tells him, what are you guys doing? You guys basically bullied this innocent Whopper Jr., and people are like, wait, what is going on? We're a little stunned.
Yeah.
And so towards the end, they unveil, like, hey, only 12% of people stand up to
For the-
bulliers. Yes,
For
in
the
video.
boy. So
For the boy.
less people stood up for the boy
Uh-huh.
than stood up for their mangled burger.
For their mangled burger.
Oh my
Exactly.
goodness.
So it was more of a
It
let's
showed-
shed light
yeah.
on the actual situation.
Yeah.
And what people should be doing.
And that's what
So-
these companies are doing now, which is actually really cool.
Yeah, I think
These
so too.
huge corporate mainstream companies are showing a value like that, something
Yeah.
of true import to like humanity.
Exactly.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so
it's
I
almost
thought
a
it was
sad,
awesome.
almost a sad, but shedding light.
Exactly, and
type of
I
thing.
feel a lot of the comments that I've seen on social media are, you know what, like, thanks so much for like showing this. This is awesome, and definitely highlights on a very sensitive and big topic.
And these are some of the types of things that we sort of grab, glean, and repost on our own Instagram, right?
yeah,
So
for
we
sure.
will tweet it out because it's making news, but it also is sort of enlightening. It enlightens our
Enlightening is the word.
viewers.
Exactly.
Yeah, it sort of spurs comment, spurs talk, and it's a big, talker, as we like to call it.
Yeah.
In the social digital community. So actually, just to recap that, you can follow us obviously on Fox 5 DC. That's our Instagram. That's where we show some of these interesting,
Yeah.
important stories.
Absolutely.
Whether they be feel good things or, like you said, important for enlightening a cause or a value about humanity. That's a good one, right? You found that one.
Yeah, I think we posted this on Friday, it was. So there's always a lot of feel-good stories. Just got to look for them. I mean, they're nestled amongst the negative ones too, because I feel like a lot of people tune out of, the news. Like, I know I have a lot of friends that tune out of it because they're like, oh my gosh, there's so much negativity.
Sure.
Well, if you also look, there's also a lot of positivity and
Yeah.
like a lot of enlightening stories too. So
Totally
it's
true.
a combination of everything.
Totally.
Yeah.
So we made a few notes just on what to talk about, and I think we covered a lot of it. Anything else that
so.
was standing out, or just what we're working on
Cute
today?
little Instagram story. Man named Wayne Winters, it was 74. He's been walking his home in Utah, walking miles a day in search for a kidney for his wife.
Oh my goodness!
I know, how sweet. The definition of love, I feel.
Yeah.
He's really efforting and he said he knows that this is going to help. And in the end, if they can't find a kidney donor for his wife, he is going to try and help other people who are looking for kidneys as well, to basically help them out. And, I'm really rooting for Mr. Winters, and I pray that somebody contacts him, because there is his phone number. We posted this on Instagram. So if you have any information or any tips, if you have been a donor in the past or vice versa, whatever the case may be, call up Mr. Winters, let him know how you can help, or if you want to be a donor and see
really
if you're a match,
amazing.
you can totally call him up.
So we're getting, everyone that is posting this is kind of essentially getting the word out for him too.
Exactly.
And so that information is on our Instagram, is that
It's
right?
on our Instagram.
We posted the story.
We
It's a
posted
good
the
one.
story. It's
older
such a feel-good-
man. Just an older man.
74 years old. It's the love of his
Wow.
life he's trying to save.
So much. Do we know where in Utah that is? Did you say the city?
The hometown is in the post. I don't exactly
It's
remember
in the
where
post.
it's narrowed in, but it's in the post. You guys will
So
see
interesting.
Yeah.
It's cool that we can kind of find these, even though they're not necessarily all local stories.
it. Yeah,
Some
They
are.
don't have to be. Exactly.
But some are really just kind of everywhere, and it's a good one to kind of
And
get the
feel
word
good
out.
ones.
I
Yeah.
like that one.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what we have on social today.
Good. So you'll be working on that. You'll be doing some snaps.
We'll be doing some snaps, some updates. We do have the Redskins playing, the
Tonight.
Eagles. So trying to manage a little
Monday
Instagram
Night
stories going on
Football.
for that.
I just saw Bob Barnard, one of our reporters, walking around. He was on this really crazy story this morning. Local story, a Prince George's County school there was a ton of security, and I think it was shut down for the morning or whatnot. I got to get the details because there was a Snapchat, speaking of digital, a Snapchat that somebody screenshotted that had pictures of guns that basically said, don't come to school today, or like it was essentially a threatening photo that someone was able to screenshot.
Okay.
And it's amazing how it's so crazy because I mean we're in that digital generation, but we didn't have that in elementary school, in middle school.
No.
So now that things are happening with it, people are making these school threats with it, and they have to ramp up security as they should. And so this school was under watch this morning. I'm actually not sure of the current status, so I want to see if I can grab Bob to kind of talk a little more on that angle of that story.
Oh, that's awesome.
But isn't that amazing how people are using it? I mean, they're using it for good, they're also using it for bad.
I'm glad somebody reported it because I feel
And
like
someone grabbed
some people
that
would
picture.
Stay quiet.
Oh gosh.
I'm glad somebody saw and was able to report it ASAP.
I bet that every parent is glad that someone snagged that screenshot.
Well, I'm glad
of
that person snapped and decided he thought it was smart.
It's amazing because obviously Snapchat, disappearing app, that's the whole point. Kids are using it rampantly, of course, even into your 20s, 30s. People are using it all over the place. So even though it's something we didn't have in school, it's big and it's very widely used, of course, with schools and children and middle schoolers and everything. So we could talk to some of our anchors who have kids in middle school. Like, I'm sure their kids are obsessed with it.
Social media prevailed
I
there.
know.
Thank God. But,
so that's a crazy story. So we'll see if we can grab Bob to kind of recap what's going on with that.
Awesome.
And yeah, I see Bob now. Maybe I'll come over.
I'll go grab him.
You want to?
Yeah, I'll go grab him.
If you can.
Thanks, guys, so much.
Okay.
Follow us
that's
on Instagram, Snapchat, Fox5DC.
Yeah.
That's my exit, guys.
And if you're on with us, guys, oh, you're good. I was gonna say, let us know what you think, and if you have any comments on these topics, join in with us on the conversation. We're gonna try to get Bob because I do want to talk about that story with him. It's a cool local angle. And then we're going to roll over to some other coverage. Vice President Pence was at the 34th anniversary of the attack on the U.S. Marine Corps in Beirut, Lebanon. A nice, beautiful little ceremony there, and he made some remarks. So we're going to play that out for you as well. So we'll see if we can get Bob, and he'll be coming back with us live if he's not too busy. And we'll be right back. Let's go back. All right, that was quick. I got Bob Barnard. I grabbed him from the other side of the room, always willing to talk to us today. So he was on this crazy story. We're just kind of recapping. Prince George's County, a middle school, was it? Or
no, it's
high school?
Eleanor Roosevelt High School in Greenbelt.
Okay, and basically there was a Snapchat that was captured via screenshot, and it was a threat right to the school this morning.
Well, it was a kind of a vague threat.
Yeah.
Basically, I didn't bring my notebook, but
Right.
it was something like, don't come to school Monday, tomorrow. And it said, I'm not kidding, or something to that effect. I don't have my notebook with me. But it never mentioned Eleanor Roosevelt High School. However, it was targeted towards students there at that school. So that's why they believe the threat was for that specific school, even though nowhere in these, it was two snaps from
Photos.
Snapchat,
Yeah.
photos. Both of them had like automatic looking assault rifles in them. And then just that thing, I wouldn't go to school Monday, and I'm not kidding. Now, one of our colleagues who did the story last night said he was in touch with who he believed was the person who actually sent this out based on some of the identifying coding or whatever on the Snapchat. And that person said, I was only kidding. I didn't mean this. I was kidding.
Really?
But police are obviously taking it seriously.
Oh my God.
So while we were out there this morning, both Prince George's County Police and Greenbelt Police had marked cruisers there with their lights flashing just kind of as a show of force. We spoke to some students. We spoke to some parents. The students we spoke to were like of the mind, hey, I don't think it's serious.
Yeah.
My parents don't. I'm coming to school. It's probably no big deal. One of the parents we spoke to, we put on television, was saying that, you got to take this seriously. And that not only the parents of kids who go there, but the parents of the kid who put this out should be concerned. What's wrong with this person who is, even if it was a joke,
And where to get
is doing
those
this?
photos?
Well, but I pointed out this to the kid. You could take it off of.
You can.
You could download it from online.
Yeah.
And then just doctor it up with the wording or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, we're hearing on our box. They're getting ready for the Singapore Prime Minister's meeting with President Trump, so we're going to take that in a little bit, maybe a half hour or so.
Okay, so anybody can take a photograph they find online of an assault rifle and doctor it up with words. Now, Was it a photograph that this, I'm assuming, kid took of something he actually or she actually owns? And then possibly.
Yeah.
And of course, the police are taking it seriously. The principal of the school, Reginald McNeil, I believe is his name, he put out like one of these robocalls, you know, you can get every Sunday night, depending on where your kids go to school. So he put out, excuse me, a call and a letter to their community saying, we're working with the police, we're taking it seriously, we're going to try to identify who did this. Which at this point, even though Evan Lambert from our station supposedly had spoken off camera with someone who purported to be the person who sent this out, we don't know that the police have narrowed that down and whether they've spoken to this person or identified this person or what. But school's on. Is going on.
It's going on. It was not canceled.
Nope. Started at 8:40 this morning.
Okay.
We left there only about an hour ago and went by. Like the police had left. They had their flashing lights and they were kind of out in front of the school.
Yeah.
They kind of left there. So we, in just our unmarked SUV, went up to take a look. We didn't shoot any more pictures on campus, but we saw that there were a couple of marked cruisers without their lights flashing and nobody in them, parked in kind of in front of the main entrance.
Okay.
And they often have that anyway.
Yes.
A lot of schools have these deals with the local or the county police departments to have a school resource officer on campus. But there were a couple of these Greenbelt police cars there parked in front of the school, the school's main entrance, no longer the lights flashing. Classes were going on. One of the things they had talked about was possibly canceling after-school activities at the school, but I don't believe that decision has been made. So that's kind of where it stands. School some families kept their kids out of concern.
Really?
But you know, all we were seeing were kids and parents taking kids to the school this morning.
Do you think, Bob, are you surprised they didn't just cancel it all, or is this normal? I mean, what have you in your journalistic
it's tough because what do you do? So God forbid you sent your kid there, and God forbid something happened. You'd be like, well, what the heck did you need? There was a warning. We're taking it seriously. Why didn't you keep your kid home, or why didn't we cancel classes for the day and make sure everybody's safe? But then you run into the whole thing of like, well, then tomorrow it's someone else just calling in a bomb threat or, you know, making some kind of statement, whether it's online, social media, or otherwise, that threatens to hurt somebody at school. You'd be closing the school every day. Or potentially closing the school every day. So they must have made the decision that based on what we're seeing, and maybe it's because the school wasn't named, even though it was kind of dispersed among students who go to that school, that look, let's put some police there.
Be serious.
Be aware, but we're going to have classes and carry on the day as normal with the flashing lights of the police cars, if in any way that may serve as a deterrent.
Yeah.
I don't know that it would if someone was hell bent to do something sinister or
I thought it was crazy too that someone had the wherewithal ability to kind of snap that photo because Snapchat disappears, so obviously someone thought it was serious and it got out there. Just that it was seen is crazy to me.
Right, and we had a family. I think we were the first to report it last night, and the police, their statement was mentioning that they were responding to inquiries from the media. So I think the police heard about it from our story after a parent in that school community reached out to us and said, look what is on my son's phone that he had saved from someone else. I think it was a friend of that parent's son who showed him, and then he showed his parents. I don't think he got the snap directly, but they preserved the images, and that's what was out there. So yeah, maybe they're just a little more aware that you see something, say something. If you see something like this, and it looks at it like try to grab it.
Right, they were aware.
As evidence.
Okay, and on a personal level, you're a parent of high schoolers or college kids?
Middle school, two middle schools.
So even
most
younger.
of my friends my age have college kids.
No, I forgot. Everyone has different
kids.
ages. Everyone has different ages.
My kids are damn
little. I thought
little.
maybe, and then I was like, okay, so this is
both
relevant.
Middle schoolers.
So you see stuff happen in elementary schools and middle schools all the time. You're covering school stuff, so what does that make you feel like? What would you do in that scenario if that happened at your kid's school?
I'm one of these. Even though I've seen it and I've known, if the bad stuff does happen, and we've met the parents of kids who have been. I'd probably send my kid to school and say, look, the chance that this is actually real and actually something's going to happen and it's going to impact you specifically at the moment you're in that place, in the school, in that part of the school at that moment. To me, I always figure, the chances of that are very slim. Even if there's a threat made.
Sure. Police are taking it seriously.
Not that I want to throw my kids into harm's way, but I would be of the mind, and I'd consult with my wife, of course.
Yeah.
Let's send them, tell them to keep your eyes open and just not crater to that kind of silliness, and
because it could be
because it's not always silly, but
I know.
There's just when's it going to stop? Someone saw something on the locker, a locker in the locker room, or on a mirror in a bathroom, or someone heard from somebody that you would be running scared all the time. So I probably, again, in consultation with my wife, I'd probably send them to school and say, you know, I'm going to take the chance that this is BS and nothing bad is going to happen.
Yeah, but isn't it crazy too? Your kids are growing up in this different age of digital stuff.
Oh my gosh,
so I didn't even grow up with that either. Obviously, we all use it now: Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat. We communicate with it. Your kids are probably using it a lot, and you don't really know what goes on behind the scenes.
I still don't know. They know more about this stuff than I do.
That
Like
nuts?
I was actually on air today, and I said it at 7, and then I consulted with Indira Levine, who's the photographer I work with every day, and who's a lot more up on all this stuff. I was calling it snaps, like these snaps, and I'm like,
I called that too.
Well,
I mean,
so when I was done, she goes, "Yeah, that's what you call it." I'm like,
Yeah.
I hope so, because I said it instead of like
said it
these
right.
tweets. I know what a tweet is, but I'm not.
No, you did it right.
Swift on the Snapchat lingo, so I said they put out these snaps.
I
and she's
actually
like,
noticed that he said that, and I was like, "That's awesome." He knows
well,
it.
but I didn't. I just assumed that if you're on
So
Snapchat,
good.
what you throw out there is a snap, and I maybe I scored on that one. But anyway.
No, it's
so
good.
It's a different world there. Where
Totally.
in some ways it's great because then the communication is a lot faster and maybe more widespread, so that if one person is saying something and is overheard, a lot of people can find out quickly, so that if something was to happen, the word would be out a lot quicker than if someone told someone back in our day, and then maybe he told a friend, and it would be 2 weeks later that like it rises to the level of where there's mass knowledge of this thing.
Right. So really good coverage from Bob this morning on a really interesting story.
Well,
and
thanks.
hopefully there is a conclusion and things are all peaceful.
And maybe they find the kid and maybe make an example out of him.
I know.
Not that you want to ruin the kid's life,
No,
but say you can't be doing this.
I know.
You just can't do this, even if you're kidding. In this day and age, everybody takes it seriously, and you totally disrupt what's going on.
Yeah, it almost makes me feel better that Evan apparently was able to maybe pinpoint who this was, and that he said he was kidding, but it's a little bit of peace. But
and maybe as an example for kids everywhere else in our viewing area and around the country, that here in Maryland today, this was taken seriously. It was a pain in the neck. Resources were put out there to try to protect against this, and some parents kept their kids home from school because some wise guy did this.
Yeah, so, another day, another Monday in Prince George's County.
Yes.
So, all right, thanks again, Bob. We'll have him on as often as we can for recaps.
My pleasure.
Thanks, Bob. All right, guys, so mainly we're going to be covering, like I said, President Trump meeting with the Prime Minister of Singapore. So we will jump over to this pool spray right now in the Roosevelt room of the President. We're going to go right over there now.
And most importantly, it's about 70,000 jobs.
You bet. You bet.
So those are all jobs in this country, right?
You bet.
In this country.
70,000 in this country.
In the United States.
In the United States of America. Yes, Mr. President.
Otherwise, we cancel the order. Okay, go ahead.
All right. Thank you, guys.
They're great planes.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you for witnessing this. It means a lot to SIA.
I think so. Thank you very much. It's a great airline.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you. I haven't flown it in a while, but.
We always welcome you to come about.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, everybody.
President Trump, is there anything more you'd like to say tonight?
Great, thank you.
We're going to line up outside the cabinet room.
Are we going in?
Let's go.
No, you're fine.
Interesting, right?
We look forward to the lunch.
It's going to be a good lunch. They do serve good lunch. Thank you very much. It's a great honor to have Prime Minister Lee of Singapore with us and his representatives at the highest level. We've just signed an order with Boeing for almost $14 billion worth of airplanes. We do a lot of business with Singapore. The relationship now is at its highest point, and it will continue. It will continue. So, Mr. Prime Minister, thank you very much. It's an honor to have you in the White House.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me and my delegation. We have a very good relationship with the United States, and we hope to take it forward further.
Thank you.
And we're very happy at the deal between SIA and Boeing. SIA is not a bad airline, and they try their best to buy the best aeroplanes. And I'm quite sure they've made a good decision.
That's because they buy Boeing, right? That's great. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.
We thought that, when the Soviet Union collapsed, that was the greatest tragedy Russia has experienced in its history. And so Putin is basically aiming at that. But, and what Putin will do is if he reads weakness in his opposition, he'll take advantage of it. That's what bullies do. They will take advantage of, if they do not think that the other side will respond, then they'll continue to take advantage of it. And so that's what he did in Crimea. That's why he went into the Ukraine. He was not in any way really checked in that advance there. And sensing weakness again, he went into Syria and was not checked there. And so the reality is that Putin is going to continue to exert an influence. Now that he's, they've got a few thousand troops that are located in Syria, along with their Air Force. They've got a substantial military presence. I think it has to be made clear that that we are not going to surrender the Middle East to Russia. That we have to play a role, and it means drawing lines. It means drawing lines, or trying to make sure that they do not develop this relationship with Iran in order to expand their influence in the Middle East. And so to do that, you have to draw lines, and then you have to stick to those lines. You got to make very clear to Russia that they cannot go into any of their border states and do what they did to the Ukraine. And that if they do that, we are going to, obviously with NATO, enforce Article 5. And that with regards to the Middle East, that we are going to limit their ability to expand their influence in the Middle East. We've got to make that clear, and then you've got to back it up. And if you do that, he'll respond. Very frankly, that's the way you deal with Putin. If you're not tough with Putin, if he doesn't understand where the lines are, he will continue to take advantage of it. And I think for that reason, it's very important for the United States to make very clear that there are lines that he cannot cross, both in the Middle East as well as in Europe.
And how do you think the administration's doing with Russia?
Not so good. I think you have to make those points clear. Yeah. We know what Russia's up to. It's not, what they tried to do here in the United States and trying to impact our election process was a cyber attack on the United States. Let's face it. This was a cyber attack against our most valuable institution, which is the right of American people to exercise their right to vote in an election. And they tried to go after that. And obviously, we're now trying to determine just how extensive that was and how we can hopefully avoid that in the future. But you have to send a clear message to the Russians that because of their aggressiveness in the Ukraine, in Syria, and against the United States, that the United States is not simply going to sit back and allow that to continue. You cannot just hope that at some point there'll be nice guys. That's not the way it works. You've got to be able to be very tough with them and make sure that when you say something is going to happen, you damn well stick to it. And if you do that, look, I'm not one that thinks you can't negotiate with Putin. Yes, you can negotiate with Putin. We've done that. And we've had some success in the past in negotiating agreements with the Russians. But you have to do that from strength, not from weakness.
Well, that was certainly interesting. So in wrapping up here, I guess a lot of this conference is supposed to be about, there been, of course, the GCC has been freed by the dispute between Qatar and Saudi Arabia and the UAE. I wondered if you think the U.S. should be more involved in resolving this dispute, or what you think should happen, and how important our air base is to the United States.
Well, you know, in addition to the other threats that I pointed out in the Middle East, there are divisions in the Middle East, historic divisions. You know, between Arab and Jew, between Arab and Kurds, between Arabs and Arabs, between Sunnis and Shias. And in many ways, those divisions have impacted on the ability to try to find some degree of stability in the region. And so, obviously, if we're going to be able to make progress in the Middle East, then countries have to work towards the same objectives. They've got to identify what is it that undermines stability in the Middle East. And what undermines stability in the Middle East, as I pointed out, is terrorism. ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Hamas, Hezbollah, all of that terrorism has undermined the ability of that region and continues to do so. And so, you know, Qatar, frankly, has had a mixed record. We know they've provided support, financial support for the Muslim Brotherhood, for terrorism, for Hamas, for elements of Al-Qaeda, the Taliban. And the problem is they can't have it both ways. If you're in that region, you have some common enemies. One is terrorism, and frankly, the other is Iran. And you can't play both sides of the street. And I think it's extremely important. Look, I think Qatar has now said that they want to abide by international requirements with regards to financing of terrorism. They've passed laws to try to implement requirements against financing of terrorism. They say that they want to do the right thing. I think the issue is now to make sure that what they say is what they do. And that means making sure that they are enforcing efforts to limit their support. Yeah, you know, we have a defense agreement with Qatar. We have a base there, a pretty significant base, involved in the wars in the Middle East. They have been facilitators when we've dealt not only with Iran but with the Taliban. So yeah, there has been some efforts to try to work together, but you can't do this unless we know where you are. And in that world, you've got to be committed against terrorism. And you've got to make clear that you oppose ISIS and other elements of terrorism, and that you're going to work with other countries in the region to make sure that terrorism is not supported. And that ultimately is the way to try to ultimately reach some kind of solution. I know that the United States, Secretary Tillerson, are working on that. I know that Kuwait has provided some assistance to try to bring those parties together. But I think you really need to have a commitment by Qatar that they are, in fact, going to abide by what they say they're doing.
In wrapping up, I can't resist asking you, you've been around this town for a long time. You have a lot of experience.
Yeah.
And as those people
as
said,
witness from the people in the audience.
As they said, we're members of the establishment. I can't resist asking you, people in the so-called swamp continually are wringing their hands and saying this town has never been more divided and politics have never been worse.
Yeah.
Do you believe politics have never been more divided? And how do you see the town, and how do you see this administration's functioning?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a real concern of mine. I have seen in my over 50-year career in public life, I've seen Washington at its best, and I've seen Washington at its worst. The good news is I've seen Washington work. When I first came back as a legislative assistant to a Republican senator from California, Tom Kuechel, there were senators on the Republican side who worked with senators on the Democratic side to develop bipartisan solutions. And they passed landmark legislation. When I got elected to Congress, Tip O'Neill was the speaker, Democrat from Massachusetts, but he had a good friend in Bob Michel, who was the minority leader. And they worked together. I mean, in the Reagan administration, as an example, you know, you look at what's up there now in the Congress. We passed Social Security reform. We passed immigration reform. We passed tax reform, bipartisan, because we were willing to sit down and work together. I've never seen Washington as dysfunctional as it is today. Both parties are in the trenches. They don't want to come out and work together. And when they do, they run into barriers of one kind or another. This country will only survive if our democracy is able to find consensus and compromise in working out solutions for our nation. That's the essence of how our democracy works. And it operates by leadership or by crisis. If leadership is there and willing to take the risks associated with leadership, then we can avoid crisis. If not, we will govern by crisis. And that's largely what we do today. So ultimately, leadership has to step up. I have a young son who just got elected to my old seat in the Congress. And you know what he has experienced, and he can't plead ignorance because he saw me in the Congress. But he's a veteran from Afghanistan who was able to get elected. And there are newer members up there, Republican and Democrat, many of them veterans, who are frustrated by the dysfunction and the gridlock. And so he's part of a solutions caucus. 22 Democrats, 22 Republicans, trying to find solutions. I'm afraid what's happened in Washington is not going to change from the top down. It's going to change from the bottom up when we elect a new generation of leaders who want to govern this country and not just fight each other.
Well, you were just terrifically on, and thank you so much.
All right, guys, thanks so much for sticking along with us. That was obviously Leon Panetta. He's held numerous offices here in Washington, CIA Director, Chief of Staff, Department of Defense, Secretary. So we're still kind of watching in on this Fox feed of the Hudson Institute Conference. It's at the Reagan Building, which is sort of in the center of downtown, near the White House, really right off, or right on, rather, Pennsylvania Avenue. And so we're going to wait around now for eventually this Prime Minister of Singapore joint press conference with President Trump behind the White House in the Rose Garden. But before we do that, in case this doesn't start up, it looks like they're taking a little break for a luncheon of sorts. We're going to kind of jump over to quickly the very visually interesting ceremony and presentation for the 34th anniversary of the attack on the U.S. Marine Corps barracks in Beirut. This morning, just moments ago, Vice President Pence had some remarks at this ceremony that featured the Marine Corps, and it was this morning. So I want to play that out for you to check into it, and then if another speaker comes up, we'll jump over there, and then of course we'll jump over to the White House to finish it all up, sort of towards the half-hour block of this hour. All right, so over to the ceremony, guys, from this morning.
Almighty God, we pray, meditate, reflect in different ways, but together mourn our dead, honor our wounded, and weep for the pain of their families. We praise our heroes, past and present too, because, as World War II reporter Elmer Davis wrote, "This nation shall remain the land of the free, only so long as it is the home of the brave." 34 years ago today, terrorist attacks took the lives of hundreds of the brave in the American and French compounds of the multinational peacekeeping force in Beirut. They came in peace to a land at war. In the line of fire, they risked their lives to buy some time in pursuit of a dream. Let us honor them by being brave ourselves, brave enough to fight when fight we must, to take some risks even against the odds, but also brave enough to believe that through our words, our deeds, our lives, we'll keep the dream of peace alive. We'll make the future better than the past. And may we say, Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated.
went back to school. He was a grad student at Vanderbilt University on a spring trip to Israel when the attack occurred. The purpose of this conference, I believe, is to get a better understanding of the big picture, how terrorism in all its forms and facets comes together. In my experience, I've always been concerned with a small corner of the big picture, just taking care of smaller items and not worrying about understanding how everything works. Over the past year and a half, we've had to try to understand the world at large and exactly how this terrorism puzzle is put together. Big picture is pretty hard to comprehend, but with your work and your expertise, I think we can make some inroads in the funding of terror. The goal of everybody working on the big picture and the little picture, which is the Tailored Force Act, I think needs to come together and provide effective work to get both of these things accomplished. The Tailored Force Act, if you're not aware, is legislation that holds back foreign aid, the United States foreign aid, to the Palestinian Authority until they can certify to the Secretary of State that our foreign aid is not being diverted to reward terrorist activities in Israel by the Palestinians. There are rewards to the terrorists, or if they die, to the martyrs' families, of up to $2,300 per month, which is quite a bit more than the average Palestinian earns. The severity of the crime, the severity of the act determines how much the reward is. The fact that our tax dollars are being diverted to support terrorism is unacceptable. Tailored Force Act would stop off the funds, and that's what my wife and I have been involved in supporting for the last year and a half. I think the goal of both those working on the big picture and those working on the small parts of the big picture should be to disband the club of the families of terrorist victims through lack of membership. I thank you for listening to my short remarks, and I appreciate you being here and your work. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Force. For many of us, I don't know if we remember this, but today is also the 34th.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the presentation of the colors. Ladies and gentlemen, here to sing our national anthem is the mezzo-soprano vocalist of the President's Own United States Marine Band, Gunnery Sergeant Sarah Sheffield.
Hey guys, so I mentioned earlier this morning that this ceremony took place just a mere few hours ago. The Vice President was able to make his remarks during this, so we're going to play this out as long as we can before we jump over to what you see in the right corner of your screen there, which is a shot right now, a bump shot of what it looks like behind the White House in the Rose Garden. President Trump is going to be greeting the Prime Minister of Singapore. So we'll take that live, of course, and we'll leave it on this ceremony for now and then jump back in to that event, which will be live from the White House coming up. So bottom left, the Vice President will make his remarks for this anniversary of the attack on the Marine Corps in Beirut. And then you see the camera kind of there on the right side of your screen getting ready for this joint press conference, which we'll take in live. So let us know what you think and your comments, as always. Any questions, direct them towards me, and we'll have both of these for you throughout the duration of our feed. Thanks, guys.
O'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a privilege to welcome as our special guest this morning, the Vice President of the United States, the Honorable Mike Pence. Please rise for honors to the Vice President. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated.
All right, guys, if you were just joining us on the stream, you're looking at a live look at the Rose Garden at the White House. We're going to be bringing up the sound on this joint press conference between the Prime Minister of Singapore and President Trump. This was a pre-scheduled event. If you were also watching, we're going to have, I'm going to kind of roll out the video of the Vice President so we can go up to his remarks and sort of watch some of that at this U.S. Marine Corps anniversary before we jump over to the White House so we can have a little bit of just context to where that came from this morning. So again, live look right here at the Rose Garden, and we're going to go back to that feed from earlier this morning to listen in on the Vice President's remarks on, again, this anniversary of the attack that occurred on October 23rd, 1983, when a truck carrying 2,000 pounds of explosives drove into the Marine compound in Beirut, Lebanon. So today is the 34th anniversary of that, and we're going to throw it over to those remarks. Again, that was pre-taped, that was this morning, and then we'll bring us back live to the President at the White House.
It is my distinct honor and privilege to introduce the father of a Marine who serves today as our 48th Vice President of the United States, Mr. Mike Pence. Rabbi Reznikov, Secretary Shulkin, Acting Secretary Duke, General McMaster, General Walters, Colonel Zagurski, Lieutenant Colonel Gerlach, Ambassador Arad, Shar Jazar, and to all the members of the United States Marine Corps, all of our armed forces, our honored veterans, and the family members of our beloved fallen. It is deeply humbling for me to join you today to commemorate the 34th anniversary of the Beirut Marine Barracks bombing. There is no more fitting place in our nation's capital to mark this solemn day than here, at the oldest post of the United States Marine Corps, the Marine Barracks of Washington, D.C. And Colonel, we are grateful for your leadership and for the hospitality
of all these Marines. This facility is an enduring testament to the fortitude and valor of America's Marines. It has stood here for more than 2 centuries, and as tradition holds, in the War of 1812, the British refrained from burning it out of respect for the leathernecks they faced in battle. For my part, it's deeply humbling for this father of a United States Marine to stand before so many of the few and the proud, and to thank you for your service to the United States of America and to freedom. Today, it's my privilege to speak to you on behalf of your Commander-in-Chief, President Donald Trump. And I bring the President's greetings. But more than that, I bring the President's heartfelt condolences and those of my little family and all of the American people. To all of you who are gathered here today, who lost a family member or a friend on that day in October in 1983. 34 years ago today, America was thrust into war with an enemy unlike any we had ever faced. The sun rose early on that Sunday morning, climbing above the mountains of Lebanon, casting the day's first beams of light across the city of Beirut. The soft rays of sunshine soon reached the airport to the barracks, where the members of the 1st Battalion, 8th Marines, and many others had already begun to stir. These brave Americans were stationed in that ancient land to keep a fragile peace. As we just heard, they were there and they came in peace. They were shoulder to shoulder with their brothers in arms from the United Kingdom, Italy, and France. For more than a year, this force of freedom stood together to protect the innocent and prevent a civil war from becoming an even greater tragedy. But for that very reason, because of the principles for which they stood and the peace for which they strived, these heroes aroused the attention of great evil. And on that Sunday morning, that evil set them in its sights. The men began their day like any other, writing letters to their loved ones, eating in the mess, rising from their racks. But beyond the barracks walls, unbeknownst to them, a lone truck began its approach. It entered the airport, turned toward the building, circled in a parking lot just beyond the wire barrier. And then history records the truck rushed forward. It burst through the wires, sped between 2 guard posts, and through the open gate, crashed into the lobby. Within seconds, within just moments, the driver detonated his deadly cargo. The light of the dawning sun was virtually eclipsed by what was described as the largest non-nuclear explosion in the history of the world. In that moment, 241 Americans lost their lives. They were soldiers, they were sailors, but the vast majority of them were United States Marines. It was the bloodiest day for the United States Marine Corps since the assault on Iwo Jima. The men we lost were fathers. They were brothers. They were sons. And they died in defense of peace and freedom. And for that, we will forever remember their service and their sacrifice. Of that I can assure these precious families who are here today. We also remember the 58 French paratroopers who died only moments later when a second attacker struck their installation. Just moments after the ambassador just told me they had heard the explosion in the distance. And then terrorist violence would be visited upon them. The Bible tells us that the Lord is close to the brokenhearted and to the families of the fallen, even now 34 years hence. Let me assure you that will be our prayer for you this day. In fact, let me take this moment to recognize all the members of the Beirut families here today. You honor us with your presence. Let me also acknowledge Rabbi Reznikov, Colonel Gerlach, and all the members of the Beirut Veterans of America who were there on that day, who lost so many friends and fellow Marines and have never failed to honor the lost, not just one day a year, but every day in your careers and in your lives. Of your organization, your motto rings ever true, that our first duty is to remember. And so you have. And today, President Trump and the First Lady, my family, and all of the American people do our duty as well. We remember our fallen heroes and those they left behind. But we also have a duty to honor the memory of our fallen by continuing to stand strong, to fight from Nigeria to Afghanistan, from Somalia to Iraq, and many other battlefields in between. At this very hour around the globe, thousands of brave Americans are defending our freedom from the forces of terror. And to them, and to all of you, I say with confidence, to make the strongest military in the history of the world stronger still. Our President has already signed the largest increase in defense spending in nearly 10 years. And as we speak, we're working with the Congress to pass the largest investment in national defense since the days of Ronald Reagan. And under President Trump, I promise you, we will rebuild our military, we will restore the arsenal of democracy, and we will once again give our soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Coast Guard the resources and training they need to accomplish their mission and come home safe. Terrorism is a hydra with many heads, striking London, Paris, Barcelona. No matter what name they choose to go by or where they try to hide, this President and our armed forces are committed, as the President said in his own words, to destroy terrorist organizations and the radical ideology that drives them. And so we will. Brutal act that brings us here today was planned for information leading the location, arrest, and conviction of two of Hezbollah's senior-most leaders, including Faoud Shakur, one of the masterminds behind the bombing of the Marine Corps barracks. But as we all know, that terrorist group is merely a proxy for the leading state sponsor of terrorism. And President Donald Trump has put Iran on notice that we will no longer tolerate their destabilizing activities or their support of terrorism across the region and across the world. Iran's theocratic rulers aided and abetted the Beirut bombers 34 years ago and even now. Iran praises the attackers and remembers them as martyrs. longer certify the Iran nuclear deal or tolerate Iran's support of global terrorism. Barbarian